Good afternoon, everyone, and how's everyone doing today on Terrific Tuesday? And you know what that means? It is Share and Care with Sandy time. So, welcome everyone to our Bringing Humanity Together live stream. This is one of three open forums under the Bringing Humanity Together umbrella. Excuse me, I'm tongue tied today. Where people can discuss topics related to the workplace, humanity in the workplace, in a very positive and constructive way. Say that 10 times fast. We want to know what the issues that are out there that are facing people today because it is our goal to both work with employers and employees to bring humanity back into the workforce. And as always, we'll be going live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. But we also have a meet and greet from 2:45 to 3. So we'd love to have you aboard on those meet and greet sessions. Um, Remember, every Tuesday, Sharing Care is hosted by Miss Sandy. I host Conversations for Humanity on Wednesday, and our other great partner, Carla Finnegan, actually hosts Humanity Happy Hour on Thursday. And as you jump on, wherever you're at, feel free to comment in the chat, whether it be on our business page on Facebook or LinkedIn Live, which is my personal page, or on our YouTube channel, and let us know where you're watching from, number one. But more importantly, number two, we would love to have a great and engaging conversation with you. So if there's something on your mind, you want to add some show topics, you want to ask a question, whatever that might come up to you, we would love to hear from you. And we'd like to have that one-on-one with you after the call. So even if you're watching this on the replay, please sure to use the comment hashtag replay. And we also like to hear from you if you're watching this later down the line. And just to let you guys know, we can have up to 10 people on the call at any given time. So we'll get you in as quick as possible. And when you go into the platforms to join us, there'll be a join here link on this week's calls. There will be 3 different ones. And it's already laid out for Sharing Care, Conversations, and Humanity Happy Hour. You just click those links and you'll be able to join us on the live stream. So, hello, Miss Sandy.
Hi, Chris.
How are you doing today? And this Miss Carla.
Carla.
How you doing, Miss Carla?
How are y'all doing?
I am doing great on this terrific Tuesday.
It's beautiful up here.
We have had the worst weather you can imagine. Yesterday, there were winds. Yeah, I'm not kidding. There were winds up to 80 kilometers, and I think it was miles per hour. There were thousands of people who had power outages. Fortunately, we didn't have any of those. It also poured rain. It's still raining today, but it's not nearly as windy as it was. It was some terrible, they called it a bomb hurricane.
Bomb cyclone, yeah.
And it was off the coast of it was sort of between Vancouver Island and the BC coast. And Vancouver Island had winds that were 100 kilometers an hour. And so did some other places up the coast. So that's where most of the power outages were. But yesterday it was a horrible day, just absolutely god awful. And Sunday afternoon wasn't so good either night. And it's still raining today. Tomorrow's the weather's supposed to get a little bit better. It's going to rain again on Thursday. And then Friday, it's actually supposed to be nice.
Nice.
And the weekend is supposed to be nice. So we'll see what happens. But yeah.
We had crazy weather this year.
There has been, Carla. And this storm was all up the coast. So California had terrible. They showed slides and, mudslides and road destruction, and of course lots of power outages down there too. It's just because it's all up the west coast. And they showed San Francisco, and they showed the Golden Gate Bridge, and there was this noise that the wind was making on the bridge. It was like it was
I'm pulling really up my weather map. I'm a big weather geek.
That's okay. But it was terrible. It was really a god awful day.
Seattle got a lot of rain last night too.
Well, and the Seahawks had a game, and their stadium doesn't have a roof on it. So
no, it don't. It's kind of halfway is what it is, but it's an open air stadium.
Yeah. So they were playing in the rain, and they got killed.
Yeah,
They
they
were
did.
That was last night.
Yeah, they were playing the Golden Knights from Vegas, and they got. I think they did one touchdown. I don't know how much the Golden. I quit watching after a while. It was just so sad.
Yeah.
But,
Well, looks like there's more weather that's coming through the Midwest, and then they have the nor'easter up in New York too. Crazy.
Well, yeah, it was an atmospheric river. That's exactly what the
And
precipitation.
you know who said that?
Great.
No. That
Oh,
was
Brian.
Well, that's a
Brian said
Brianism.
that.
Okay. Well, fine, but I mean, it was
An
just.
atmospheric river.
Yeah. Well, Yale actually went to work yesterday, and I was a little bit worried because the roads were, whatever. And then a terrible thing happened last night. You won't believe this, but the winds did something to my daughter's alarm. And we got a phone call at midnight last night telling us that the alarm had gone off. And because her phone was off, they couldn't get hold of her. So they got hold of us. So I phoned her, but her phone was off. So I spoke to her this morning, and she said the wind must have done something to her front door that set it off.
Wow.
And, she checked it this morning. It seemed to be fine. And she called the alarm company this morning because when she got up and turned her phone on, there were like 20 emails from them on her phone.
Wow.
But I phoned her this morning because she gets up really early. She gets up.
She knows their security system's working.
Well, yeah. But I mean, it was terrible. Apparently it didn't wake her up, and they turned the alarm off so that it wasn't ringing. But she said her door was closed and everything, but it must have jarred it somehow.
Yeah, it must have.
So
Probably pressure inside the house, outside, and it kind of combined it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what
vibrated the house.
Because what happened is that she said that if the alarm had gone off, her dog would have started barking too. So, but she never heard the alarm. So she didn't know, what was going on until the morning.
And then if the phone not to work, that's even troublesome there in and of itself right there. It's like, can't reach him. What's going on?
Well, that was a concern. And that's the reason why they called us, because we're the emergency, whatever. Like Yale said, we're too far away. She needs somebody who's close by for this and, whatever. Because we're about 15 minutes away, depending on traffic. So, it'd be better if she had a neighbor who wants for emergency or whatever. But anyway, nothing happened. It wasn't that anybody broke in or that, anything bad happened, because it didn't. But she's got one of these Ring alarms, so you can see what's going on and stuff. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. That was sort of, get this phone call in the middle of the night is not really what you want to have.
No. I remember when I lived in Europe, I was in the north part of France, and we would get winds that came over, through the UK, and I mean, howling for days. And you would just walk around with a headache just listening to the howling wind for days.
Wow.
Crazy.
Well, see, this is very unusual weather for here. We don't usually get super high winds. And certainly not for days. Like it's been 3 days, and this is very unusual. And what this is all this climate change stuff. I mean, the climate in the world is really a mess right now, and that's why there's all this horrible stuff that's going on all over the world. It's awful. So and our weather person said that it's going to be more often that these kinds of things are going to be happening, and so. Well, there is a big climate summit that's happening in Scotland later on this week or something. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. When I lived in Italy, we used to get sandstorms that came out of North Africa.
Oh.
And you would go outside and your car would just be covered with sand.
Oh, God.
Wow.
And
But
that was back in the 90s.
yeah. But did you see who is close to you, Miss Carla? That I sent you last night.
Did I see what?
Did you see that person that I sent you last night that's near you? Is like that they're close to me.
Oh yeah, Mark Cole.
Can you believe that?
We had talked about him when I went to Live to Lead. I was like, That's what his name is. And then when you sent me his profile and I looked at it, I said, "Oh my God, he lives near me."
Can you believe he's not connected to me?
Did he message you back?
No, but I'm going to message him. I just blind connected with him, and he accepted. So now this is going to be. That's why I'm so excited. He's right near me.
Yeah, I haven't. I try to connect with him. I haven't checked to see if I have a connection.
I've been listening. In fact, when I took my wife to work on Saturday, I was listening to him doing the newest edition of the John C. Maxwell podcast, and the guy's phenomenal. The guy just knows his stuff, and he's down to earth. And I believe, Sandy, what we're going to be talking about today is about winning others over, or the woo, so to speak.
Okay.
So,
well, the best way to do it, Chris, is to listen. If you can't learn about the person, then there's no way that you can win them over. You have to know what matters to them, what concerns them, what they're interested in, because then you know how to approach them. Otherwise you have no clue. I mean, those were the kinds of things that I used to try to figure out about my patients, that I knew which buttons to press, because if you don't know what buttons to press, you can't get compliance. And it's very important to get, cooperation. And you can't get that if you don't know the person. And that's why it's so important to ask questions and listen very carefully to the answer. As I said to you, hearing is an ability unless you're hearing impaired. They don't teach us how to listen. Most of us just don't know how to listen because we're not taught. And it's an art. And you need to learn what all the interferences are and all the other things that prevent us from doing it well, so that once we know those things, then we can practice being a good listener. Because most people are, they think they know how to listen. They have 2 ears. But most people don't really know how to do it very well. And so many things are missed, and there's confusion and miscommunication, and then there's a lot of disappointment and resentment because people, they think they told somebody what they wanted, but they didn't get proper feedback, so they have no idea what that person actually heard and how they processed it and what conclusion they came to, but it wasn't their conclusion. So, it's just a matter of, it's very, very important to get feedback when you're having, some kind of an instructional or direction or an important conversation. You need to find out what they heard. And as I've said before, don't ask them if they understood you, because people will always say yes. They don't want you to think that they're stupid or they weren't paying attention, but that doesn't mean they actually understood you. It's better to ask them, what do you think I expect of you? It's a very different question, but at least you'll find out if they heard your message. Because otherwise we have no idea. And that's really the problem, and that's why there's so much miscommunication, because we're not mind readers. I told you, I often start my active listening workshop by looking around the room and saying, so, do we have any mind readers in the room? Because if we do, you can leave now. Because if you can read minds, it doesn't matter whether you listen or not, because you can just read their minds. But unfortunately, that's not a skill that very many of us have. So, it's just a matter of what are we doing? And the very best thing is to practice active listening and really get to know the people that you work with, that you live with, that you spend time with, because your relationship will be far stronger and far better if we listen to them. It's very important. My daughter phoned me this morning because she was all uptight about this. I mean, I talked to her early this morning because I know she's up. So I phoned her at about 5:20 because I know she's up. And so am I, which is annoying, but anyway. And so I talked to her while she was walking to the gym. And then she phoned me just a little while ago to say that, her door is fine and, she's checked this, but she's going to check with the alarm company again to find out, what they can do, if there's anything they can do. And maybe somebody should come over and check things. So, she's got to suss this all out and see what can be done. because she doesn't want to have another night like that. And I said, and neither do your dad and I. We don't need to get phone calls at midnight. Thank you very much. Because, of course, it woke us up. And then, getting back to sleep after and of course, I couldn't get hold of her. So I was concerned. What if somebody had broken in and, hurt her or something? I was really concerned. But as Yale said to me, we're not driving over there at midnight.
It's amazing the things that go through our heads as moms,
Of course. So fortunately, nothing happened, but it was a bit concerning to get this phone call at midnight.
Well, it's interesting that you say that people don't listen well, because I think that a lot of people will listen, so they think, and they're multitasking at the same time.
Yes, which definitely doesn't work. You can't do two things at the same time. You certainly can't listen well while you're doing something else. And it's something that people need to understand. It just doesn't work. I mean, there are the first thing you have to do if you're going to listen is you have to shut up. You can't talk and listen at the same time. So if you're going to listen to someone, you got to zip it up. And then it's really important, if you're not clear, ask questions, ask for more information, this sort of thing. But it shows them that you are paying attention if you do that. But otherwise, there's just no way of knowing. And I tell people, unless you get feedback from the person that's supposed to be listening to you, you have no idea what they actually heard, how they processed that information, and what conclusion they have come to, which is why there's often so much resentment and disappointment, because people don't get what they want. They say, well, I told them what I wanted. Yeah, well, did you find out what they heard? So, it doesn't help us. Plus, and this, Carla, from healthcare, that, if we're really going to
get it.
Well, yeah, and if we're really going to help people, they have to trust that we have their best interests at heart, and we have to. It's usually the stuff we're telling them, it's always the same stuff, but it's got to be packaged in a way that grabs their attention. So for different people, like I told you about the guy that I had, a friend of mine who had a heart condition and was going to get a heart transplant done, but he didn't take good care of his mouth. And, I finally, when I knew Jim was going to have that surgery, I told him, I said, Jim, you've got to take better care of your mouth, because there are some very nasty organisms that live in your oral cavity, and you're swallowing them all the time. And what they do is they look for a weak spot, and your weak spot is your heart, and it's going to be your new heart, and you're going to be in deep doo-doo if you don't fix this. So he says, okay, well, show me what to do. I'd shown him like 10 times, but no matter. So I showed him again. And then I told you, his wife, because they were friends of ours, phoned me about 2 or 3 days later going, Sandy, what on earth did you say to Jim when he came in to get his teeth cleaned? I said, why, Jude? Well, he's brushing and flossing like a fiend. I said, oh, thank God. So, it finally got his attention, because it was something that obviously now mattered to him. And I also told you, when I was teaching in dental hygiene, that we had to grade the students on their ability to deliver oral self-care instruction to patients. And I always positioned myself not to look at the student, but to look at the patient, to see, if they were really paying attention. And one of the students, I told you, her dad was sitting in the chair, and he had that glazed, and the look, Carla, that men get. They go into their nothing box and their, whatever. So I told her, I said, Sarah, your dad's not listening. He sat up in the chair and he went, how do you know that?
Not listening.
Yeah. And I said, I've been married over 40 years. I know that look. So I said to her, I said, you've got to explain to your dad why it's important for him to do what you're showing him, because he has a heart condition. So the guy says to me, how did you know that? I said, I read your chart, which I'm allowed to do. And I said, it's very important for you to listen to your daughter. So sit up straight and pay attention.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's go to the comments from Graham and Brian. This is what Graham said. If we aim to woo people, are we being authentic? And then Brian came out and said, winning others over sounds like coercion, getting others to agree with our perspectives. But what's your takes on those comments from Brian and Graham?
I don't agree with them, because I think, winning others over, it's not a matter of coercing them. I think it's a matter of helping them. And I think it's the perspective that you look at. If we can help somebody to enjoy their work more, or to get along better with their colleagues, or even to take it home and get along better with their families, then that's a win-win for everybody. But it's a matter of teaching them what to do. And these are skills, they are approaches, they are strategies, they are a way of dealing with people. And if people can learn some of those things, they will have a far easier time dealing with people. Because the most important thing for human beings, we're very social creatures, is to have good relationships, meaningful, long-lasting relationships with the people that we care about. You can't do that if you can't communicate well. And you can't do that if you don't know where people are coming from, and so on and so forth. Even with your kids. I mean, it's a matter of really understanding what matters to them so that we can have a good relationship with them. Because I think it's very sad. And there are lots of parents that don't have good relationships with their kids. I think it's really sad. I told you with my kids, it's sort of a funny thing, because if Mark asks me for my opinion, I go like this. So you really want to know what I think about this? You want me to tell you what my opinion is on this situation. Is that true? Yes, I want to know. I said, okay, then I'll tell you, because otherwise I do not interfere. Because in my view, I mean, my son is 43 years old, his wife is 41, they have 2 boys. It's none of my business how they run their family. At least I don't think it is. But if they ask for an opinion, then I'm happy to offer it, but I never butt in. Because I think I told you, when Mark got married, a few of my friends who already had daughter-in-laws, I said, you know what? Wear gray and shut up. Or wear beige. Yeah, wear beige and shut up. Because, if you want to have a good relationship with your daughter-in-law, butting in and, whatever, it's not going to. And I actually have a lot in common with my daughter-in-law, even though she doesn't have a healthcare background, but she has written a book with her mom. And because they both have a master's in education. And Kim does a lot of presentations and she blogs all the time. So we do a lot of things that are similar. So we have a lot of things in common. And I would hate to ruin that relationship. I mean, it would just be terrible to me. And when Kim had Jack, I went to Toronto and I moved in and I helped her. Sometimes I would get up and feed him so that she could have a little bit more sleep. And it was the same thing when Sam was born. I also went. She couldn't believe that I would come and do this. I said, listen, you need your sleep. Yeah. And it's no big deal. I can take a nap. Yeah. So I want to help you, and I want you to stay healthy while you're nursing and taking care of the boys, because it's a big job. It's really hard. So, I was very happy to go and help. She couldn't believe that I would get up and do the feeds in the middle of the night.
So, Miss Carla, what's your thoughts on what Graham and Brian just said? And then Brian just posted this as well. Why do they need teaching? What's your thoughts on what Graham and Brian has shown us today?
So I can understand why the word woo can tend to have some negative connotations to it, and the fact that it sounds like you're trying to spam them or coerce them or lead them into a right decision. So what I think of it is win people over. It's got a lot of different things. People have to know you and like you and trust you before they will even consider what you're suggesting that they have to offer. Like Sandy doesn't go into a presentation and says, my name is Sandy, and we're going to shake things up here, and this is the way you're going to do it. She's got her way of showing people that she knows what she's talking about. And she's there for a purpose. I don't know. I don't like the word woo. I immediately thought of coercion or persuasion or whatever. But like I said, they have to trust you And you do have to listen to what they have to say to figure out what the problems are or what they say their problems are. And we're offering solutions to that. And yes, that's teaching. I help people change their lifestyles. Yes, that's teaching. If it's for them, it's for them. If it's not, it's okay. I think if you're going to woo people over, you're going at it as you're getting to know them first. And yes, you have something to offer, but you're not you don't have any expectations to the outcome. Now it's different. I mean, when you're offering a service to somebody and you're reviewing with them what you do, yeah, you're wooing them in some respects, but you're presenting what you do. And if it's something that's going to work for them, then fine, let's take it a step further than that and have a deeper conversation. But if you go into it like a bull in a china shop, you're not going to get any cooperation.
It's like we said, Carla, with what we're trying to do, when you impose things on people, and that's why I said that push marketing doesn't work for this, because if people don't think they need this, don't think they want it, then you might as well go over there and bang your head against the wall, because they're not going to pay attention to it anyway. But when people have a problem and they're seeking a solution, that's a whole different thing. They're looking for somebody to help them with some kind of issue. And we can help them, but it's a matter of we got to wait for them to come to us, because going into an organization and telling them what we think they should do is not going to work. You just might as well go over there and bang your head against the wall. We can't make people do things they don't think they need.
Yeah. It all depends on the industry that you're in. Whether it's what we're doing, whether you're in real estate, there's different ways of getting you front and center and top of mind with people to where they will know you in the community, for example, and like you and trust you and go, oh yeah, I know a good real estate person, for example. I don't see that as wooing people. I see it as getting to know people and saying, I have a service. If you're interested, let me know,
And see, this is what comes from me when I hear winning others over. I'll go back to what you said, Carla. It's about really truly getting to know people because of the know, like, and trust factor. Because if we don't know them, then we're not going to know what they know. Same thing with us. They're not going to know what we know. That's not going to happen. But also with the like factor, am I going to like Sandy for what she does and why she does it? Or am I going to do that with you, Carla? Am I going to like for what you are presenting out? And when you say it, teaching is there. Teaching is everywhere. I really believe, because see, teaching is an aspect about knowledge. And with that knowledge comes discernment, comes opportunity, and comes to a point of saying, hey, I realize that Sandy and Carla or Brian or Graham is providing value here that I probably may have not gotten otherwise, or maybe from somebody else. And it's like what you say, Carla, every day to me. I provide a service to people, but it's their choice. They choose that if they want to be healthy.
I educate people every day.
Yeah.
And it's because I believe in what I do. And part of that is presenting a healthy lifestyle and walking the walk and talking the talk myself. It's not just to woo somebody specifically, but if I can get somebody to maybe say, Carla's looking good, or she's always so positive and she keeps talking about going out and walking, I'm going to go give it a try. And so if I can make somebody's life better by just changing a couple of habits in their life, then I'm all for that. I'm all about that. And if that means I wooed them over, then so be it. But I'm going to set a good example for people, and I'm going to be what we represent. Just like we've talked about before, in what we're doing, we have particular standards of how we think organizations should treat their employees. And if we find ourselves in a situation where we're not being treated that way, we need to say, okay, am I going to represent this culture that I believe in and still sit in a culture that I don't agree with? Or am I going to do something to make a change?
Well, this is what Brian just said. He says, if someone says you're a great teacher, you're not that good. If someone sees how good a student they are, then you've done your job. But what he first said was this: give them answers is quote quote enticing for teachers. It is what they believe they are being paid for. And that comes from Brian.
Well, it's funny, Brian, you should say this, because I thought about you the other day. I was talking to a nurse who had gone into education, and he was teaching pharmacology to nursing students. And he said to me, he goes, they're a lot of work. And I said, really? Why are they a lot of work? Well, they're hard to work with and they don't always get it. And I said, well, don't they have a responsibility to show up in class and study and get it themselves? Or are you just going to spoon feed them with that? When you're teaching, you have specific outcomes. You're not necessarily persuading somebody to learn math or science or anything like that. I know at the college level, Brian, you've talked about saying, I'm there to help people learn how to think. Okay. And that's, to me, that's a big difference between high school and college. When I was in high school, way back when, I'm trying to think of when it was in 77. Okay, I'll say it. Okay. We had, you went to class, you learned how to do algebra or trig or whatever. You read this material, you took the test, boom, you moved on to the next thing. When I went to college, I had to completely learn how to learn, because it wasn't given to me on a platter. Here, read this information, take this test. I had to really learn how to think critically, which I hadn't really done a lot of in high school, because it was do this, do this, do this. And I had to learn how to think. So this guy's saying, like, well, the generation today, they need a lot of help, to learn it. I said, well, when I went to school, you either learned it or you failed. I had a responsibility to learn it. Otherwise, I wasn't going to be there. Let's see what Brian said. Carla, do you take golf lessons? I have not in a while. I work on it myself. I did take some lessons. I have gotten some tips when I used to do the sips and tips on Thursdays, but then I really wanted to play. And a lot of stuff I figured out myself.
Soups in the...
Because I had to figure out what worked for me and my swing.
Well, the other thing, Carla, for you and me, is that when you're becoming a nurse or becoming a hygienist, it isn't stuff to just learn and forget. It's stuff that you have to learn because you've got to apply it. You need to totally understand it. It's a very different way of learning, because if we're going to help people, we need to be able to diagnose things and figure out what's going to be best for them. So it isn't just a matter of memorizing a few things for a test. It's a matter of understanding that we're learning these things because we've got to apply them. We have to know. Yeah, it's a much different kind of learning. So, that's why, like you said, you had to learn how to learn. It's different because you needed to keep that stuff. It wasn't just for writing a test. It was because we have to apply it when we are dealing with our patients. So, right. It's a very different way of learning, which is fine.
Well, I found it interesting that a guy that was went into teaching, that he was, to me, it seemed like he was almost spoon feeding them the information, and that he was going to figure out a way that they were going to get it. Well, in some respects, they've got to get it. They've got to figure out how to get it.
Absolutely.
It's not his job to necessarily make it creative
and
pretty,
It's got to be practical.
Yeah, and pharmacology is not pretty. And my first thought was, man, that's a weed out class. But then when you have institutions that are really keen on making sure that they keep their retention of students and they don't have a high dropout rate, you know, it becomes a game on how easy can we make it to get them through. And it wasn't like that when I went to school. I think when I started nursing school in 77, we had maybe 50 people in our class, and it was tough to get in. And then after the first semester, we were down to about 35, and then we were down to 20. So it was tough. You either did it or you failed.
That's right, and you're done.
No cushy stuff.
No.
It
just doesn't work that way. You got to know this stuff, which is very different from just memorizing it for a test.
Okay, Mark, Brian's giving me a lesson. Okay, next time you take a lesson, ask the teacher what they think of this. Golf cannot be taught; it has to be learned and discovered. Okay, I will. I'll ask him tomorrow. I don't have a lesson with him, but I see him all the time. In fact, last week when I played, I ended up playing by myself, and I was on a par 3, and I didn't realize that he was in front of me with a couple other people because I saw them, but I didn't pay attention to who it was. And next thing I know, he backs the cart up and he says, "Come on, you can play around us." And I'm like, "Oh God, that's Jeff, the golf pro." And so, of course, I got up to the tee box, and of course it was like, usually I can get it on the green, but I hit it like short of the green and it just stopped dead. And I said, "That's what you're not supposed to do." And I ended up parring the hole anyway, but it was a laugh.
Well, I wanted to dive into this video for another Maxwell minute from, of course, John C. Maxwell. It's kind of interconnected with Woo. And it's about from the YouTube video about leaders love their people. And I believe when we woo others, I believe that's the other side of the woo dynamic, because when we start to love others for who they are in everything, and it's not really like that deep, love kind of thing, but it's the human kind of thing. Because there's different levels of love, different levels of leadership, there's different levels of learning. But I just thought this would be a great interconnected kind of segment. So here is John C. Maxwell from his Minute with Maxwell. Leaders love their people.
Welcome to Minute with Maxwell. My name is John. I was recently speaking to a group of leaders, and I said, when you stop loving your people, you should stop leading your people. So let's talk about, what does it mean to lead with love? When a leader leads with love, the first thing that is very apparent is that it's not about the leader. The whatever he or she is doing, it's not about who they are and what they command from others. It's always about others. I love the expression that it's wonderful when the people believe in the leader, but it's even more wonderful when the leader believes in the people. Well, that's what leading with love and belief is all about. Just loving and believing in the people. I think that leadership is a very difficult job. I think it's a very heavy responsibility. And I just have a feeling that for most of us, we get tired of it. But the thing that keeps us going is that we love our people. The moment that I stop loving you as a leader is the day I start manipulating you as a leader, and that's always wrong. So I would just suggest you today to kind of check your love thermometer, get your love gauge out, and ask yourself, do I still love the people I lead? If the answer is yes, keep leading. If the answer is no, quit. Because I've never known an effective, good leader who had great leadership skills but did not love his or her people that was effective in leading them. Thanks for joining me today on Minute with Maxwell.
Now, how powerful is that? What's your thought, ladies?
It's totally true, Chris. If you don't care about the people, then how can you lead them properly? Because again, one of the roles of the leader, it's not about them. One of the roles of a good leader is to help their people fulfill their potential. And if you can do that as a leader and help people to be the best they can be, and to explore other things that they may want to get into, then you're a good leader. And then it shows that you care about your people because you want them to be the best they can be. And it's a win-win for everybody because their self-esteem rises and their self-confidence rises, so they're going to work better. And that's a win for the team, and it's a win for the organization, because if everybody in the organization is, working at a very high level, it's a huge win. Then everybody has an advantage. So, but it's up to the leader. It really is. And depending on how you deal with your people is what kind of an organization you're going to have and how successful and long lasting it'll be. If you don't have a good culture because you haven't committed to creating it and maintaining it, you're going to have a high turnover, and you're not going to have good customer service. So you'll probably have a high turnover of customers, which isn't good either, which means that your business might fail. It just, might totally fail. So it's really, again, it's totally up to the leader. You got to walk the walk. And if you're not prepared to do that, then you shouldn't be in a leadership position. It just, it's like Carla said, she's leading the kind of life that she's trying to help her clients to espouse. And, if they want to be healthier, then they got to do some of the things that Carla's suggesting. And they probably have come to her because they want to do that. So, if Carla does that herself, then it's a much stronger message coming from somebody who actually lives like that. So, and it's the same thing with any of the stuff that we teach. If we don't really believe in it, then how are you going to get people to believe you and to actually do it? It doesn't fly. It really doesn't. You've got to be passionate about what you do. And that has to come through when you're selling it to people, when you're instructing them and trying to persuade them to adopt these kinds of things because they seem to want to. But if they don't really, again, we can't make people do things they don't want to do. So it's a matter of if they've come to you because they want to improve their physical, whatever, then good. We can certainly help them.
Well, I think that a leader needs to believe in their people that they're working with, and they have to believe in the leader. But I think it's also a role of a leader to help the team members believe in themselves.
Yeah. Well, if they can fulfill their potential and be doing their job really well, and you acknowledge that and thank them for it, then we're in good shape, and so are they. So it's just a matter of what are you doing? What kind of a leader are you? So again, people, they don't care that much about different kinds of things, but again, you got to walk the walk. Mm-hmm. You got to show them that you believe in what you're trying to get them to do. Because if you don't do it, why would they care?
Right. Well, I've always lived with that. You never do anything that you wouldn't turn around and do yourself.
Exactly.
Whether it be sweep the floor, clean the bathrooms, change out the toilet paper, whatever it happens to be. But, a leader may see something in a team member that they don't necessarily see in themselves, to where it could be something to where they could extend what they already know with a little bit more mentorship to learn a new skill that can not only help the organization, but it can help them grow as an individual as well.
Exactly. And again, that's why you have to find out what they're interested in. It's like Chris says, you got to be where they are. So you got to know where they are. And you can only find that out is if you ask them questions and listen to their answers. Otherwise, we have no idea where they are and where they want to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, they may not even know that they have that potential to do something, but a leader may see that they have a gut feeling that somebody has a potential to pick up some tasks, for example, and say, I could really see you doing this and growing from this. I want to help you get there. Can I show you how to do it? Can we do it together? And, may or may not work, but you may be able to give someone the confidence to grow, and it would be beneficial for the organization.
Well, it also keeps them engaged. If they're always doing the same thing over and over and over again, it's not that interesting. But if you give them something new to do, something a little bit different, and you have increased their responsibilities, I think that it keeps people engaged, and it just gives them a different perspective on the things that we're doing. And I think it's healthy. It's really healthy because, you've said this many times, Carla, we got to keep growing and learning. I mean, our whole life. It's actually important for our brain, but it's a matter of, people who don't do any of those kinds of things, they go downhill. They really do. It's important to challenge yourself.
Yeah, I was asking my dad that last week because he's talking about retiring by the end of the year. And I said, so what are you going to do?
Good question, Carla.
Yeah. So, he can putz around. He keeps his house cleaner than I keep my own house. But, and he loves doing that. And he does crossword puzzles and reads the newspaper and different things like that. So he'll have plenty to do, but hopefully he'll still feel mentally stimulated so he doesn't go downhill fast.
Yeah.
So let's go to the comments from Ryan. He says, what love actually is the experience that someone else is all right exactly the way they are. To love somebody, you have to choose for them to be the way that they are. Exactly. And then he says, are you sure leaders actually love their people? And that comes from Brian.
Well, I think that, like if you look at your partner, okay, you accept your partner for who they are. You can't try and change them and make them into something they're not, because that's not going to work. And it certainly isn't going to help your relationship. So you can't do that with other people. You have to accept them for who they are and love them because they just have different qualities that you like or things that you can do. And I told you, Yale and I have a division of duties with our kids because of our background and of the things that we like to do. And it's worked. I mean, it's worked really well. And I told you, he's got a calculator for a brain. So, it's just, he's really good at that sort of stuff. I need a piece of paper and a pencil. He can just do it.
The same way.
But, that's fine. I admire him for that. I think it's really terrific. And I mean, we're different in a lot of ways, but we have a lot of common interests. And that's why our marriage has lasted so long. I told you guys, in December, we'll be married 49 years. And the reason that it's, that it's still good, and it is still good, is because we respect each other and we give each other space and allow each other to do, certain things that maybe aren't the same. But we both really like to be outdoors. We like to bike. We like to walk. We like to hike. We like movies. We like music. We like plays, concerts and plays and things like that. And we like all different kinds of food. We like to experiment with food. Like, I don't care, any kind of different restaurants. We like to go to them because we like the food. When we traveled in all these different countries, a lot of people travel and they expect to eat the kind of food they eat at home. Sorry, doesn't work that way. So you have to be more adventuresome to try, things that are different. And it's fun, at least we think it is. So it's just a matter of, and I also think I told you that, a lot of times with our kids, even if we hadn't discussed certain things, we were on the same page. I told you Mark came home one day and, sort of tested me on what his grades were and everything. And I never had a chance to talk to Yale. And then he threw it on at his dad, and he got exactly the same answer from Yale that he got from me. And we didn't even talk about it. Because, I mean, basically, we look at our kids in the same way. They're very different. And that's okay. That's what also makes it interesting. And, anybody who has kids knows their kids aren't the same. But that's all right. It makes it interesting to raise them and to deal with them. And, whatever. And we've always enjoyed our kids, and we still do. But it's just a matter of, what is your perspective on things? And I think that people who have expectation, somebody has to be just so, and they got to do things this way. And really, why? I mean, I just never understood that. If somebody's getting the job done, and it's getting done within a reasonable amount of time, and it's getting done well, why do you care how they do it? I mean, to me, that just doesn't matter at all. It's the end result that matters. So if somebody goes from A to B in a straight line, or somebody zigzags to get there, who cares? I mean, as long as what is the result is what you expect, then it shouldn't matter how they arrived at it. And, that's why, imposing that has to be done my way, it's garbage. It's absolute garbage. And any leader or manager who insists on that is crazy, because sometimes the people that are actually on the front line might come up with a better way of doing it, a way that's even more efficient or whatever, because they're the ones that are doing it all the time. And again, if you don't listen, you will miss opportunities. So, sometimes they're very creative. Why would you discourage that? And if you listen to them and give them credit, and other people go, oh yeah, that's a good idea, I'll try that, whatever, then, you just have a better place, and everybody is going to be happy because they're getting to do things the way they like to do it. And why not? I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see why it has to be the way you do it. So what? It doesn't have to be your way, as long as the result is what you're expecting or what you need. And I don't care how they got there. It doesn't matter to me. And I used to tell the students that when I was teaching in the dental hygiene program. Yeah, the teeth need to be clean. So there are different things that you need to do. And there are lots of different instruments you can use. And one of the ones that I actually learned to use when I was in dental hygiene school was an ultrasonic cleaner. And they're very different from using hand instruments. And they're actually a lot easier because you don't need to press very hard. But it's just, there's different things that you can do. And if they're offered a variety of things, let them pick what they like to use. Who cares? I don't care. As long as the teeth were clean in the end, I didn't care how they got there, as long as the patient was okay. But it's just a matter of, what are you teaching them? You're teaching them that there are options, and let them exercise options as long as you get the result that you're supposed to be getting. Doesn't matter how they get there. And imposing, again, nobody likes things imposed on them. It's not comfortable. That's why most people don't like change. But if change comes because we've had a collaborative discussion about it and people have had input, they're far more likely to accept the change and actually, welcome it and use it. But if you impose the change on them, you're saying, this is the way we're going to do it from now on. Yeah, well, that's not a comfortable way to go. So it's way more important to get them involved in the discussion and the conversation.
Yeah, if you can involve them and also let them know what's in it for them, to where it's beneficial for them to make the change, they're going to be more open to that.
Of course.
I like what you did, how you compared a relationship, because when I hear about people getting divorced after X number of years, and it's like, well, we grew out of love, and it was just like, oh, what, like growing out of a shirt or something, So I'm just going to, it's not fun anymore. I'm going to get divorced. I think that is something that's very lacking in society these days. That if people have issues, the first thing they think about is getting divorced, as opposed to going to counseling or working it out or sitting down and having a conversation, and figuring out how each party probably contributed to the situation where you stand now. There aren't that many people that make it to 49 years. I've got 16 coming up, and but this is round 2 for me. So, I see a difference between a marriage relationship where we have made a firm commitment that it's unconditional love. Yeah, there are some conditions, you cheat on me, your shit's on the curb, there's conditions to that. But but the little things, you don't let it really bother you, and you accept them for who they are. They're
Yeah.
idiosyncrasies. My husband has just as many as I do, I'm sure, if I don't have more, but we're great in the relationship that we have. We think a lot alike. I think it's different in the workplace. And I wonder whether there are leaders that truly accept 5 or 6 people on a team for exactly who they are. Because it's so easy to get exasperated when they show up late, or they're constantly calling in sick, or they're never getting their projects done on time. It's really hard to just say, I'm gonna love them as a leader unconditionally. Yeah,
Well,
some of their little idiosyncrasies, yeah, it's fine, but you do have to set some limits to make sure that the job gets done. And I don't think that a lot of leaders have nearly the patience at work that they might have at home, if they have that at all.
but this what comes up for me, ladies. To me, it all starts with how we show up. How do we show up not only to others, to win others over, but how we actually are being seen from not only their point of view, not only from a team dynamic or even a leadership dynamic interconnected, but how does Carla see me? How does Sandy see me? How does Brian or Graham see me? And like you said, Sandy, before, to actually believe in this, is if we meet people where they are and just take them for who they are, nothing more, nothing less. Brian has taught me so well, and don't try to add or subtract or manipulate a conversation or an opportunity or a state of being, but then just take it what it is. I truly believe that there's so much opportunity there to learn, to grow, to gain more insight, knowledge, listen, learn, and lead better. And I just believe that that's there. So I believe this is from Brian. Flip it around. How many people actually love their leaders and accept them how they are? That's got to be a Brianism. I guarantee you that is. Let me make sure. But I guarantee you that's a Brianism. Yep, that is a Brianism. So, Brian,
I do, because of the
great.
cultures that I deal with, the different work cultures that I deal with, whether it be this organization or what I do for a living. Because I'm in a very positive, growing work culture to where I love everybody on our team. And I think that's the way it should be.
Sandy, your thoughts?
Well, I think if the leader doesn't like and appreciate the people that they're supposed to be leading, I don't think they can lead them very well, Chris. And I think that the people on the team need to appreciate and admire the leader, because they have set the tone, they walk the walk, and they are demonstrating what they expect other people to do. And if they do that, then I think there's a far better chance that people will follow. But it's a matter of, are you doing it in a pleasant manner? Because again, there are people who finger point and blame and yell, and I worked for a guy like that, and it's not fun. It's really not. But there are ways of helping people to make decisions and to learn from their mistakes. And it can be done in a very nice, supportive, encouraging way. And when you do that, then they do learn from those mistakes, and they are far less likely to repeat them, because they had to sort of sit down and think about what happened here and how can I fix this outcome. And when you encourage them to do that, then they're going to be paying much more attention to what they do and how they do it. And so they'll be far less likely to repeat that mistake, because they actually took it apart and looked at it and so on and so forth. So you can't really be expecting your manager or your leader to be fixing everything for you, because that doesn't help you to learn. But if your manager says, so Chris, looks like we have a little problem here. What do you think? Why don't you come into my office? Let's have a little talk about this. So what do you think went wrong here? How do you think we ended up with this outcome? And what do you think you should do to fix it? What kinds of things do you think you can do to make this better? And then, the manager or the leader could say, those are all good ideas. Would you mind if I offered you one more idea? And then, so before you go, the next time you're faced with this kind of situation, what do you think you should do so that we don't end up with this outcome? So, we can discuss that. Good job. Excellent suggestions. So you go ahead and fix this. And by the way, if you run into any hurdles or any challenges and you're finding it hard to fix it, you come back and I'm going to help you. So, when a manager or a leader deals with the problem in that manner, the person's going to feel like you've got their back. And because if you yell at them and finger point and blame, the person knows they screwed up. I mean, when a person screws up, they know they've screwed up. So making them feel worse is only going to make them make more mistakes. And in addition, likely the next time they screw up, they're going to try and cover it up. And of course, that isn't going to help anybody, because we need to be aware and we need to fix things. We need to be accountable. We need to own what we do. We have to take responsibility for the things that we do. And if the leader does that, because they're human too, they also make mistakes. And if they say, hey guys, by the way, this outcome, that's my fault. And I'm going to take care of that. And I'm really sorry that happened. Obviously, I wasn't paying close enough attention, or I wasn't thinking about what the outcome would be from this behavior. So I'm going to take care of that. So again, that's walking the walk. And when people see that the manager or the leader is also accountable and owns their mistakes, then obviously it's okay for me to own my mistakes, because it shows vulnerability. And there's nothing wrong with showing a little bit of vulnerability. It shows that you're human. So it's just a matter of how are you dealing with things. And people who deal with things in the way they want others to deal with it got a far better chance that they're going to follow your lead.
Well, here are two more Brianisms, and I'm going to share it with you guys, and I want to get your thoughts on. Brian said this: putting conditions on how people should, quote, act is evidence of not accepting them exactly as they are, and therefore is devoid of love. And then he comes back and says, should employees love their supervisors, managers, leaders, and owners for who they are? What's your thoughts, Carla?
Oh, I think that, well, I'm going to go back to the first question. You could see the wheels turning. I think that there is a gray area in what should be expected in the workplace and accepting people the way that they are. There are some things that just have to be done. I mean, like in healthcare, it to some extent, it's got to be done in a certain way. Yes, in some things there's room for leeway, and if somebody finds a different way to do it easier, then that's evidence-based practice there. We used to do things one way 30 years ago, and then through time and evidence-based research, we found different ways to do things, and we changed the way that we did things. And yes, there's some things in healthcare, for example, that have to be done in a certain way. In other industries, I'm sure there's other things. It has to be done in a certain way if it's going to work right. People are expected to show up for work on time. They're expected to call their boss if they're not coming in, just different things like that. Those are expectations. The fact that every time I turn around, somebody's getting a phone call at work, and it's interrupting, or maybe somebody's got little quirks or whatever, that's a whole nother thing. But there are policies and procedures that have to be followed to some extent, no matter what industry you're in. Those other quirky things, you have to decide, can you tolerate those? And like I said, I don't think that there are a ton of tolerant leaders out there. I know that there are some, because I work with a lot of them. But, I don't think that it's saying I don't love and appreciate somebody just because they should do X, Y, and Z as part of their job.
Well, I actually misread the second one. The second one actually came from Graham. Graham said this, like I said, should employees love their supervisors, managers, leaders, and owners for who they are? And then Brian came back and said, Graham, should nor no, nor should leaders love their employees.
Well, I love my husband and I would do anything for him. I don't have that same type feeling with the people I work with. I mean, they're great to work with. And yes, I would probably do anything for them, but it's different than what I call love as marital love or love for my children. It's different. I've been in work situations before where I didn't necessarily love somebody, but I was still respectful of them. I've had supervisors before that I didn't necessarily like. And that's how, you go through life going, well, if I ever go into a supervisory position, I'm not going to be like that, but I've still been respectful of them. I didn't necessarily love them. I was still polite and treated them with kindness and respect, just like I would anybody else on the face of this earth. But did I love them? Would I have them over for Sunday dinner? Probably not, so it's what do you call love?
Well, for me, love has many different aspects to it. Even when it comes to the woo has many different aspects to it. And once we recognize how many different paths that we can choose to go down to meet people where they are, and they meet us in return, that's how it gets the conversation started. To understand what the dynamic is, whether it be in a marriage relationship, a business relationship, partner relationship, at whatever that might be. And if you recognize it for what it is, and you just take it for what it is, and you don't, like I said, add or manipulate or subtract anything, but you just take it for what it is. What shows up for me, and I learned this again from Brian so well, is three things. Number one, I can seek to understand it. Number two, I can buy into it at any given time at any given moment. Or number three, I don't have to buy into it at any time or any place. But what I can do is recognize that I can be respectful of said opportunity, said conversation, said engagement with those people, even my own wife. I can be respectful of that and honor that. And if I honor people for who they are, for what they are giving to me each and every single day, not only from a place of leadership, but from a true human connective standpoint, not only does it help them, it will help me. I will go back to what Zig Ziglar said many years ago. If you help others get what they want, you will get what you want. And of course, that kind of transitions into our mission statement here at Bringing Humanity Together, which is, if I help you, you help me, then we help we.
And as I always say, Chris, it's not rocket science. It's really a matter of one of the things that Carla said, being respectful and accepting people for who they are. And if you can do that, you'll get along with people so much better. I mean, again, nobody's perfect. There are no perfect human beings on the face of this earth. It just doesn't work that way. But there are nice people. There are people that have, some wonderful attributes that we can respect and appreciate. And you're right, Chris. If you do nice things for people, the chances are people will do nice things for you. I mean, usually it's a two-way street. People who are never nice and never helpful, then, you don't have anything to do with them because they're not pleasant to be around. And there are, some people like that. And in a way, you have to feel sorry for them, because maybe they're like that because something bad happened to them. And they just are never going to let anything bad happen to them again. So they keep pushing people away. And it's sort of sad because they go through their whole life feeling pretty bad all the time. And that's a sad way to live. But if we can accept people and help people, it always gives you a good feeling. I mean, that's why I always encourage people to volunteer, because there's nothing better than doing volunteer work and helping people who are less fortunate than you. I mean, it's a wonderful feeling, especially when you do some big project and it works out. Like they just had a thing here. They do this every year, and they raise money for kids who have disabilities and kids who have, other things. And this year they raised over $2 million to help these kids, to give them equipment that they need and counseling and, different sorts of things that they need that maybe their families can't afford. And this way they get to have it. And I think it's an amazing charity. And I mean, I've done literally thousands of hours of volunteer work, and it's always been interesting. And I've met women from coast to coast here in Canada. I've even met some American women, because the organization I belong to, there's an American branch of it. And we always, when we get together, we share what our projects are, so that, if somebody's doing something in their city, and, oh, we've never done that, give us some more information about that, something we want to, we could try. And so it's just a matter of what are you doing? And it just makes you feel good when you can help people who are less fortunate. Like one of the things that we do at our synagogue during the high holidays is we collect food for the food bank. And everybody brings food to the synagogue, and it's collected and it's sent to the local food bank, because there are so many people who are struggling today. And it's just something that we all do. We do it every year. It's just, we have big boxes in the parking lot of the synagogue, and you come in and you put your stuff in there, and then ultimately it is taken to the food bank. And, it's just a matter of, can't you feel good about helping other people that are less fortunate than you? It gives you a nice feeling. And I think in general, Chris, what you're trying to do, which is, bringing humanity back into the workplace, unfortunately, there are many workplaces that aren't very pleasant. And again, just because somebody has the idea for a business, even if it's a good idea for a business, doesn't mean they're going to be a good boss. Because if they don't know how to do it, then it's probably not going to be a pleasant place to work, and they're going to struggle. And that's, I think, the reason why so many small businesses fail, because the person who starts it doesn't really know what to do or how to deal with people. And that's a very sad thing. But again, as I've mentioned many times, and I think it's very sad, soft skills are not taught. They're just really not. I think they should be in high school. I think they should be in every program, because, if you're a healthcare provider, or you're an engineer, or you're an architect, or you're a lawyer, don't you have to talk to people? And, if you can't do that very well, things aren't going to be very easy for you or for your patients or clients. So I really think it should be part of the training. And I think it's very sad that it's not. I really do. I just think it's so sad that it's not part of the training for most of these professions, or even for vocations, or for techies. Techies are mainly left brain, and they're very good at what they do. I will grant them that. But usually they don't know how to talk to people at all. They just, they have really poor communication skills. And it's sort of sad to see. And, again, but it's not part of their program. They're not taught. Just like I said, we're not taught to listen, but we're not taught how to communicate effectively. And that's really, it's a loss, and it's too bad. I mean, all of us have had experiences with dentists and doctors who, tell us stuff, and they use medicalese and dentalese and, all these terminologies, and we don't know what the heck they're talking about. So they need to know how to explain things to patients. I told you I sat in on a treatment plan presentation to a patient, and I said to the dentist after she left, I said, she's not going to move forward with any of that. What are you talking about? I said, well, don't you have pictures of all those restorations? Well, of course I do. I said, well, why didn't you show her the pictures? Well, I explained it. I said, yeah, you explained it verbally, You and I know what those things are. She has no idea. When she gets home, her husband's going to say, what did the doctor tell you? And she's going to say, I have no idea. And that's why most dental offices have literally hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of work sitting in patients' charts that they've never moved forward with, because they don't know how to make an informed decision, because they don't know what they've been told. So, it's very sad. It's sad for the patients. It's sad for the dental office. It's just, the whole thing is very sad. And it's just because a lot of these dentists just don't know how to talk to people. They just really don't. And it's a shame. I told you what happened when I phoned UBC. So, the curriculum person told me that they don't have time for that. And
You need to make time for that.
I bit my tongue, Carla.
I bet you did.
When I hung up the phone, I went, what do you mean they don't have time for that?
Yeah.
They don't have time to learn how to talk to their patients and their staff? Give me a break. You've got to be kidding. Because in hygiene, we did teach that. It's one of the only programs that has some soft skills in it. And the reason they do is because I told you, we have a national accreditation team. And we decided what elements had to be in every dental hygiene program. And we felt it was very important that communication be part of that. We also teach, Carla, stress management and time management, because we also think those are very important aspects of practice. And if people don't know how to do that, they're going to struggle. And it's not fun to struggle. So it's really important to learn some of these basic things that can be very helpful for you in every aspect of your life. And again,
For sure.
So
what would your call to action be?
Well, I think we need to pay attention. I think we really do. You need to listen and you need to pay attention so that you can help people appropriately. If you don't know who they are or where they are or what they're looking for, then you can't help them. But if you listen and you pay attention, you'll be able to figure out those things and you'll be able to help them reach their potential and all the things that are going to make everybody happy. Again, not rocket science, but it's the humanity piece, Chris. And a lot of people don't know how to be human. Sort of sad.
Yeah. Did you have Graham and Brian's call to actions there?
To make an effort to accept people for who they are and to consider that they might be making better choices than I am.
Amen. And then call to action, recognize that feedback isn't really feedback, it's a form of judgment.
Well, I think it depends what kind of feedback you're giving and how you give it. So that's sort of a relative thing.
Yes. Yeah. My call to action would be, I love the listening component, but also be what you want others to be. Like if you're a leader, for example, in what I do, the people that I'm helping to grow a business just like me, they're only going to do half of what I do. So I need to do that extra to where they've got the sense of energy to at least do half of what I do. If I don't show up and help people and do what I do with my business, the people that I'm helping grow businesses won't show up. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So you have to be a leader and show the behavior you would like to see other people do. And, it just, if you take that back to just like a regular medical workplace, if a room needs to get turned over or a dental station needs to be turned over and you're free, you go help. It's not a matter that it's not in your job description or anything like that. You just do it, and you do it for the betterment of the team and the betterment for helping that individual and helping out the practice. And do it without keeping points and keeping score.
Yep.
I hate scorekeepers.
And my call to action is just simply this: recognize that people are where they are and why they are there, and meet them there. And when you let them be who they are, and even see the potential that's not only within them, but also what's also within you, and you share that with each other, that's a gift that keeps on giving because you are allowing it to occur. So if you do that, again, it's like what Brian has taught me so well. And if you just take a conversation or an opportunity and just take it for what it is, a point of transformation that comes out of that. And when we do it in the context of winning others over, we got to just recognize simply where they are and how do I show up to others. And also, it matters a lot in the way I actually show up to as well. Because if I don't show up and I'm having a bad day, Carla's going to know about it. Sandy's going to know about it. Graham's going to know about it. So it's Ryan. And then that creates the dynamic. Say, hey, are you okay? And I'm going to have to come back and say, I'm just having a bad day. Because everyone's going to be human. And if we recognize that there are going to be those days, we can have a better foothold to not only win others over, but sometimes more often than not, they can actually win this over in any given time in any given space because we're allowing it to occur. So it's a two-way street. It's a two-way dynamic.
Sounds good. Okay, I got to go.
All right.
See you
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for Share and Care with Sandy. We'll see you tomorrow for Conversations for Humanity. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.